Hi, welcome back to Colors in the Void. Tonight we have a special episode. We're going to be reviewing the newly released Phish vinyl Undermind. This will be a vinyl review of the album. It was released on this past Friday, November 21st. Its first ever release on vinyl. The album was recorded in February of 2004 and was released on CD and most likely cassette. But it wasn't released on vinyl the first time around. I think at that point, vinyl had become obsolete compared to CDs, and obviously with Napster and the digital age, MP3s were taking over. So very excited. I started collecting Phish vinyl back in 2012 when Phish did the RSD, the Junta Deluxe version. And essentially that's when I started collecting vinyl. Really, Phish's record store day releases sort of inspired me to start collecting vinyl again after collecting it as a youngster, early teenage years. So very excited to have this record on vinyl. It's actually a really good album. 2004 was a tough year for Phish. If you're watching this channel and you know the history of the band, they had a controversial run of shows in April of 2004 in Las Vegas. Then Trey wrote the resignation letter on behalf of the band in May of 2004. They played their last shows in June of 2004 and August as well, and their last shows were at Coventry, infamous shows at Coventry. But this album really extends back to even 2003, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But even still, 2004 was a tough year for the band, but they managed to play some great shows, and they managed to record this great album. And it's produced by Chad Blake. I think Chad Blake did a great job with Phish. Back in the day, I remember seeing this for sale at Walmart, for example. And in the CD release, there is a DVD movie called Specimens of Beauty, and you can see that on YouTube. I highly recommend it. It's a great companion to the album. It was included as a bonus feature when you bought the CD at the store. And it was kind of unique because Phish retired right at the after Coventry, and so as a fan, we had Bittersweet Motel, that movie, directed by Todd Phillips, but we hadn't we didn't really get a chance to see a lot of Phish on screen, if you will. So that was a nice treat. So let's jump right into the album, guys. Again, it was recorded in February of 2004 and at the Barn in Vermont, and it opens with a huge song for them in 2003 and 2004, Sense and Subtle Sounds. And the opening track is actually from a demo from Trey that he recorded in April of 2003 in Nantucket. The next song on the album is called Undermind, the title track. Great song. It's great live. It's just sort of a rump roaster live, if you will. It's got a great groove. I mean, here on the album, it sounds a lot different. It sounds more, to me, I could hear more African sounds and, just a different beast here on the album. As we go through the album, I'm going to talk about live versions as well, just because this album triggers a lot of memories of listening to a lot of shows from 2004, and also in 2009 when they returned. The next song on the album is called The Connection. This is a great tune. It does have kind of a pop sensibility, almost like Heavy Things. It's a song about change, about Trey wanting more. It's a great little tune, and I think Fishman talks a little bit about it in Specimens of Beauty, how Phish has gone through these cycles of playing long fugues and these longer pieces, and now they're playing songs like The Connection. So Fishman's just sort of expressing joy, being part of the ride. The first time they played this live was on the 19th of June in 2009. This was their first big tour back after their Hampton shows in 2009, and they were playing Deer Creek on the 19th of June 2009. Towards the end of the tour, really cool version. Super excited to hear it. I have that show on my hard drive. That tour doesn't have the greatest recordings. They were still working out the kinks. Languedoc was not doing the front of house sound, or he wasn't doing the recording. But that first tour was a little rough on sound quality, but still a great version. And at that same show, the 19th June 2009 show, they actually do a very cool version of a song I Heard the Ocean Sing, which is the next song on the album here on Undermind. They on the album they do a pretty good jam on it. It sounds like a sort of a rustic barn jam. They played a couple versions in 2004 on June 17th, which you can see live at Brooklyn, that DVD. And there's an especially really exceptional version on the 19th of June in 2004, where they play a really long version of a song I Heard the Ocean Sing, segues into Piper. But it's a great tune, and I like the jam here. That concludes side A. Moving on to side B, opens with Army of One. This is a Page ballad. Not a huge fan of the song. I mean, it's just, but kudos to Page for having a song. The next song on side B is called Crowd Control. This song I like, and again, it's featured on Specimens of Beauty. The first time I heard this, I believe it was debuted on the 28th of November in 2003 in Uniondale. Pretty cool version. The next song on side B is called Maggie's Revenge, and this is just a cool little jam snippet. Mike's playing some pretty cool bass, and it's just sort of an improv session at the barn. Pretty cool. And then the last song rounding out on side B is called Nothing. And again, it's a great song that they cover on Specimens of Beauty, and I feel like it's a song that really sort of encapsulates this album really well. It's definitely one of the big songs on the album, and they played that one on the June 2004 tour a couple times. The second version is a little extended. That wraps it up for side B. Moving on to side C, we have a song called Two Versions of Me, and I wasn't that familiar with the song until I heard the record earlier today, and was pretty impressed. The next song on side C, Access Me, really sort of dirty guitar by Trey underneath. I've always liked the song going back to its debut on the 26th of June in 2004. It's a song written by Mike and sung by Mike. It's just a great tune. And then we get back into we had the intro of Sense and Subtle Sounds, and then we have the full song on side C. I love the song. It's been one of my favorite songs going back to July of 2003 when I first heard it. I absolutely love the Deer Creek 23rd July version, followed a week later by just a monstrous version from Camden on July 30th, 2003. They played it again at the IT, and then they played some exceptional versions again in 2004. After they recorded it in the barn, they played an exceptional version. I believe it was the 23rd or the 24th of June in Deer Creek, really out there jam. And then the last version of 2.0 on the 12th of August, interestingly in Camden, kind of reprising what they'd done the previous year. But the 12 August one, it's a little bit darker, and it's the last jam before they go to Coventry, but still pretty poignant. So I definitely recommend those versions. Here it's a barn jam, but it's not nearly as impressive as the live versions that I just mentioned. I love hearing Phish on vinyl, because I feel like I'm hearing nuances that I hadn't heard before, and that certainly rings true for tomorrow's song. This song I wasn't really expecting to enjoy it as much as I did. It's got a slight reggae feel, really nice bass by Mike, and some really trippy vocal harmonies. Just a great tune. It's not very long, but it's just a really cool Phish song. Moving over to side D, the last side of the album, opens with "Secret Smile," and this one it's a nice ballad by Trey. He's got some strings. He was doing a lot of string arrangements. He was doing a lot of things with the Vermont Youth Orchestra at that time, and really starting to sort of spread his wings in terms of his classical music and his collaborations with orchestras, for example. So that was a nice tune. Grind, which ends the album on the CD. It's an a cappella tune. It's just them showing off their a cappella style. Co-written by Tom Marshall. I believe it debuted all the way back in maybe '98. I'll have to double check on that. And then a special track on this album is called Tiny. And this is only on the vinyl version of all the releases of Undermind, special for this album. I guess I remember it may have came from the same sessions as the Headphones Jam. So I listened to it, and to me it reminded me of, they played a lot of great versions of Piper in 2003 and 2004. And so Tiny to me sounded like just a great Piper jam. Trey's vamping out on a couple chords, Mike's hitting some nice bass, and the jam just kind of propels along those lines of Trey chording, Trey vamping, and Mike and Page. I mean, it's a really good jam. But I recommend the Headphones Jam in whole. That's a kind of an underrated piece in their live Phish, in their online catalog, if you will. I recommend that. Like Specimens of Beauty, the Headphones Jam definitely augments Undermind. So yeah, great. I mean, overall, really happy with this album. There's a picture of the band, probably taken right around the time they recorded it, probably by Chad Blake. The photographs inside, it does come in a gatefold, and the photographs, and essentially Chad Blake even put the album together as far as the layout, and Chad Blake was active not only in the production of the music but also the presentation of the media, which I thought was kind of cool. So kudos to Chad Blake. You can see him in the DVD Specimens of Beauty. Again, it's on YouTube. It's just a fascinating insight into the making of this great record. So really excited to have this finally on vinyl. It's going to fit in nicely with my other Phish vinyls. So super excited. So yeah, that wraps it up for tonight, guys. Again, I just wanted to go over the album Undermind. Right now I'm listening to a lot of December of '95. That's been my focus on the last few episodes, and just hearing some great music, and I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. So that will probably be the next episode. Okay, well, until then, guys, thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and if you have a favorite track or a favorite story about 2.0, 2003, or 2004. And I just wanted to mention in closing Sense and Subtle Sounds again. One of the earlier versions I heard was from the 15th July in 2003, the soundcheck version from Salt Lake. And if I remember correctly, they posted a video on their at Phish.com, that tour. Mike was filming, and sometimes snippets would end up online. But it's a cool jam at the sound check, and they pick up on a local radio station, and the jam has almost kind of an Eastern feel, and at one point you can hear Trey telling Phish, we'll put it on the new album, and this was after Round Room, so they were obviously thinking about this, even in its embryonic stages. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in, and like I said, I recommend Phish Undermind. I mean, it's on all your streaming channels. But if you're into vinyl like I am, I recommend getting this on wax as well. Okay, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon when we talk about Phish December 1995. Okay, thanks. Have a great night.